Good morning. Welcome back to the Catholic Monarchist podcast. Today we've got a fun episode today. And so this will be it's going to be new material, but a little bit of a recap off of some points that I've made in previous videos. But those videos were made a while ago. And so I think I would just like to kind of keep everything updated so that for anyone who's new, who hasn't seen anything that far back, this could be just a good recap video of what we're about here. This is the Catholic Monarchist podcast, and so I want to make sure that I keep that message going, that is what we're striving for here, is to bring back monarchies. And one way to do that is to convince people that's what works. And so, without further ado, we might as well jump right into it. So these are 8 reasons that I thought about over the last few days that really I think are a good case in favor of a monarchy, specifically in comparison to a democracy. They're kind of like those two main governmental systems that people now, I think, are debating over, because they are just so different. And a monarchy has been the main dominant force for centuries until the American Revolution, and then since then it's just been democracies, or if you want to be more technical, constitutional republic or a democratic republic, whatever you want to say. It's all based on some kind of democratic base. So my first reason why a monarchy is the best form of government is consistency. Now, what we have now, there isn't any. At best, you get someone, it depends on the position, of course, but let's say a president. The most you can get out of a president is 8 years, and then you're going to get someone else. And people are never going to have the exact same vision of what they want to see. And so, and then you get it in a lot of other positions. You get it in the governor, and a lot of just smaller positions below that. But the thing is, you never get a 10-year plan, for example, because things are always shifting back and forth. You might get a conservative who governs one way, puts everything in place, whatever. So Trump, we were pumping oil here, pumping gas, and prices for that were really cheap, for example. Then he's out, and you've got Biden. They shut down the pipeline, and then suddenly we had gas prices, depending on where you were. In Kansas here, we had it as high as the mid-4s, I think. Under Trump, at that point, it was, $1.50 per gallon? So just things like that. We're just never going in a consistent direction and path. And so that's one reason right there, I think, is that with a king, you've got them, or just a monarch in general, you've got them there for a long time, and if they have a plan and idea, they follow through with it through potentially decades and decades. So that's one reason. Second, the king, when he gets his power, his position of power, it's by birthright. It's by his duty of state, his responsibility. He is born into it. He can't, just decide, I want to be king and I'm going to do everything I can to get that position, no matter how much corruption or whatever it takes, no matter how much fighting. It's there already. Now, some people might say, well, that's not good to hand something like that to someone, if they didn't earn it. Yeah, that's true. But in history, the heir to the throne did have to go through quite a few tests to be worthy of that position, to be worthy of that huge responsibility. So they got the best education, they were trained, they had they did a lot of activities and tests to make sure that they were mentally, spiritually, and physically ready to handle such a stressing position. And that's what it is. It's not just sitting around and, eating fruit all day. There it is. You have the entire kingdom in your responsibility. So I think that's also a plus, is that this person had to do it. Not everyone wants to do this thing. Sometimes the best leaders are the ones who don't want it, but are doing it because they have to. And that could eliminate the those people that are just striving for this just for the benefits. They want to be famous, or they want to be rich. So that's number 2. Number 3, the officials were appointed by higher authorities. So for the majority of monarchies, you had the king. Then he would appoint who he wanted below him, and he'd probably go a few more layers below that. And, most of the time they were chosen based on merit or even just friendship. And yeah, that is frowned upon nowadays, where family or friends are chosen for positions, even if there might be someone else that's maybe deserves the position more. But I think there needs to be more than just skill involved with choosing who is good for a position. If that person is a friend, then they're going to have very good chemistry with their authority as well. So getting someone who is skilled, maybe not as skilled as someone else, but they're going to work well with that person, and more likely with the other authorities, who are probably also friends, than people who are just going to be butting heads and hating each other. And then on top of it, so that was number 3. And then number 4 is kind of a continuation of number 3. It is the structure where the authority goes from top down, rather than democracy, where it goes, in theory, that's not what's going on now, because it's corrupted. And the democracy, it's bottom and up. So the reason top-down authority works better is just look at a business. For a business to really function right and to work well, you need people at the top who know what they're doing, and everybody below them has to listen to what they say. If there is anarchy, or just everybody at the bottom level all has their ideas and they're the ones that dictate the direction that the business goes, that business is just not going to last long. And I mean, it should be common sense. This is government. It's run in a lot of the same ways. And so lost my track of thought. So with the government, and if a business is not even going to take the risk in having the people, the workers, decide what's best, then why are we letting that same thing happen with the government, which is our well-being, which is every facet of our lives, our work, our home, our recreation, whatever. Like, government affects all of that. So I think it's foolish to let the people who, for the most part, are not educated on the matter to decide what's best for all of us. And on top of that, the top down in relation to a Catholic monarchy, just as important, is that the king answers to God. That one person does. All of his decisions, whatever he decides to do, he's got God to answer to. With a democracy, you've got millions and millions of people, and I highly doubt every single one of them is going to look at that. First of all, not every single person is going to be Catholic. That's just the reality. You're never going to get a perfect 100% demographic of anything. And so not everyone is going to be answering to God because they don't even believe in God. And I think that's a big deal. That's number 4. Number 5, and this is sort of more of a personal taste thing to me, and that is the aura of a king typically demands more respect. So what I mean by that is, you look at leaders nowadays, presidents, prime ministers, and senators and whatnot. They look like anyone else. They go around in a suit or a button-down, polo shirt, and they just look like another business CEO. There's nothing about them. There's nothing special that we could look up to and admire for the most part. You look at, and I know because you look at social media, for example, and I know it's social media, but even not there, sometimes in real life, in person, they're just treated, I don't know, just not treated like they're leaders. They're just like everybody else. There's just not much respect there. People trash talk them to their face everywhere, and because of that, that's going to create a, for lack of a better word, but a vibe here where there's just authority is just not going to be respected, and that is important. And I know I want to specify, I mean authority needs to be respected, not tyranny. And with a king, there is something about them. They've had this long line of kings before them. They've been here forever. They've been through a lot, and they do. They have a luxurious way about them, and it's pretty cool. And kings, monarchs back then, were well respected. It was not how you see it in the movies now. The movies now obviously are going to be anti-monarchy, especially anti-Catholic monarchies, so they're always going to make these monarchs look like jokes and that people were making fun of them all the time and having no respect for them. That wasn't the case. Even a ruler who wasn't the best, outside a tyrant, they were well respected. And I think that's important to have when you have leadership, is respect. And going back to that word, the aura, you have a certain pride for your leader because they are pretty darn cool. That was number 5. So number 6, the monarch has more to lose. So he's lived in this country for a long time. His family has been there for a long time. They have a long line of descendants who ruled this country. And their family and their identity is ingrained in it. So it is in their best interest to govern that's going to benefit that nation, that kingdom. They might lose, they'll probably lose their status, their wealth, everything if they make decisions that's going to result in its downfall. And with a democracy like what we have now, where elected officials are being paid off by lobbyists, they typically don't actually care what happens to this country unless they actually care about it. But if they don't, then they're making their wealth from lobbyists, foreign ones. So even if the country falls, they have money, they can flee. They don't have as much of a reputation to hold up because maybe they were the first one in their family that held a public position. Maybe they're not that well known. But with a king, it all goes back to him, reflects on him and his family. And for that reason, I think a king can't really flee his country, not in the same way that an elected politician here can. So that's number 6. Number 7, a monarch has more legitimacy than an elected official. So it's kind of goes back to the kind of like the birthright point. Is the monarch, he was born into it, it's been in his family for decades and centuries. So that was distracting. He's not going out there and campaigning and begging for votes and trying to tell everybody how he's the best and the other person is terrible. There's just kind of something demeaning about that. Rather than a person having that responsibility thrust upon them, and they try to make the best of the situation. Some want that, some want it, but some actually don't. And that's a point that I think a lot of people don't understand, is how huge of a responsibility it is to be a monarch. And when it all comes down to it, most people would not actually want to take that on. It's not about just sitting around and having fun all the time, unless you're a terrible ruler. But if you actually want to be pretty good at what you're doing, there's a lot of work that goes into it, and there's a lot of preparation. You do not have a normal childhood, and then you don't have a normal life beyond that. Just look at the royal family in England now, and how unhappy some of them are, and how some don't want to have that social pressure on them. And so, yeah, I think just back to the legitimacy point, I like to go back to that St. Thomas More quote, and I'm paraphrasing, but it goes something like, anyone who campaigns for public office is not what's that word? Anyone who campaigns for public office is not fit to be in that position. And I could see why he says that. Now, so that was number 7. Then finally, the last point, number 8, is, people are stupid. Let's just be real. Most people. So let me be more specific about that. People are stupid in politics. Look at people who are even elected and how dumb they are. They have no idea most of them don't even know what they're doing, and they're in the position. Now imagine the typical Joe on the street who couldn't even tell you what the structure of their government is right now. I mean, why would we ever leave our nation's well-being in the hands of the masses? I mean, look at where we've come to now. We've got Republicans and Democrats, and look what they both have to offer now. We've got Democrats trotting out Kamala Harris, and before that was practically a dead man walking. Kamala Harris, and they're as radical as can be. And on the Republican side, we pretty much don't have any better. Trump is a disaster now. Everybody in the Republican Party is a paid Zionist shill. They've got Amber Rose going out there making a big speech. They've got they got rappers, just people. It's like, why? Who are you going to attract with that? But that's what they're doing, and people are voting for that. So I mean, and our voting history has led us to this, where this is the option now. These are the options. So I think with that point, it's just, I'd rather place my trust that one person could be smart, could turn out to be smart in the long run, rather than try to hope 50% of the population is smart and knows what's best for an entire nation to run well. And so those are my reasons. I drew on definitely longer than I wanted to, but I think I try my best to explain each point. If you have any qualms about it, I know many of you have not been shy about your criticisms, but for the most part, a lot of good comments. I appreciate them a lot, and I look forward to just more discussion about it and hear what everyone else's thoughts are about it. So have a good rest of your day, and I'll see you next time.